I just want to be in the zone.
Welcome to The Artist Cut, honest conversations with creatives about what shaped them and why they create. I'm Maya, I'm an artist and curator, deepening my practice and building community one story at a time. Today I'm joined by Chrys Seawood, who is a wonderful artist here in the DMV, who creates installations that explore gender and race, grief, embodiment, sexuality, and all of the stories that society oftentimes imposes onto us. Their work asks these big questions, but it does so through lived experience, public ritual, and spaces that people can actually move through and feel. I'm excited to get into their background, their influences and art practices, and the truths underneath their work. For people who are just discovering your work, how would you describe your perspective? What are you trying to communicate?
I think it really depends on the work. I've been told by other people that I'm a conceptual artist, so that's something that I'm embracing. And it really makes a lot of sense because I'll have a concept in my head first, and then I determine what medium will communicate that the best. And so I don't particularly stick with one thing. It's so complex for me, but my work tends to center around race, like the constructs of race and gender, and how those two things are kind of imposed onto us, and just how people show up as gendered people. I'm really curious about that. I read a lot about that. So in my other works, that definitely comes through. The work that we are in front of is kind of like a derivative of an earlier work. It's actually not something I probably would have usually thought about, but because I have these shoes, it was something that interested me. Like I'm thinking about this in real time. Like I'd like to tell stories. So my perspective tends, I think, to be one that is observant. I like to observe patterns and patterns in behavior of people. But yeah, I don't know.
It makes sense because you're also an educator.
Yes, I'm an educator, and that actually is really important in my work because I read a lot, and usually when I'm conceptualizing something, 10 times out of 10, I'm also probably reading theory that's related to the concept.
Which makes sense why you're talking about these very complex and nuanced realities for people, right? Gender, the multiple genders, race. And reading about your work, reading about your previous exhibitions, I definitely would love to learn a little bit more about how did you get there. So maybe we can go back and start with, there was an exhibition you have, you had two, Feeling Our Way Through and All on the Court. And those two really talk about masculinity and the Black male experience and talking about vulnerability and emotions. And so where did that come from and what were you trying to communicate?
I think it came from a lot of my observations in the classroom. I've been a teacher for 11 years. I started in high school. Many of my students, young Black males or other masculine identified youth. And I kind of noticed like behavioral patterns. Like I was a teacher who also played like basketball with my students, or will sit after school with them and just having candid conversations. And something that I had noticed that inspired my last show, I noticed that when we were on the court, they seemed to be a bit more expressive emotionally, whether it was sadness or happiness, playfulness. or even anger, a lot of that seemed to come out on the court. And so I was really curious about that. And so I decided to kind of informally interview them and kind of peer a little bit more into that inquiry of what does the court provide that you feel able to show up as to emote in a way that I didn't see them emoting around their peers in school. And I realized there was something there because they go to hoop they were hooping pretty regularly, like every day they were going to the court. Or even I thought about myself. I'm a former basketball player. I played basketball since, I don't know, 9, and was a starting point guard for middle school, for high school. I didn't play in college though because I knew that wasn't the life for me. But I also was able to relate to the idea that the basketball court was kind of like a safe emotional space. And from there, I had the idea that I kind of wanted to tell that story. And so that's where it started.
What did you learn when you were talking to
Oh, that's a good question.
folks?
I learned that they felt a sense of emotional freedom that they didn't have in other spaces, because with Black youth, particularly like Black masculine persons, Black males, young Black males, they have to be really careful, or have been really careful about how they navigate life. And that the previous show that I did, I attempted to express like the different ways in which young Black youth navigate emotion, like navigate bravado or sadness, or even all different kinds of emotional experiences. So I learned that the court was a space where I think I remember back to one interview where it's like he said that he wouldn't be bothered. Like nobody would bother him playing basketball. And so that made me think that there's a sense of freedom that isn't experienced in other areas of their life.
And how did that come out in your work, in that specific
Oh
exhibition?
my gosh, you're asking hard questions. What? I don't even know. How did that come out, that sense of freedom?
And I saw a video that you have where you which looked amazing. Just all of the different touch points. It was part of a residency that you were part of,
Oh,
right?
yes, with Meriwether in Columbia, Maryland.
And you also got married there. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Or you had your ceremony.
I had this ceremony there. I'm divorced now, but
Me
it was
too.
there.
Me too.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about it. Delete this.
I decided to include the interviews that I had with a lot of young Black males. I wanted, first and foremost, for their voices to be more prominent than mine. I kind of take on the role that, like, it's a message coming, like, through my work. And as much as possible, I just wanted their voices to be centered and put forth. So I showed their interviews. So their interviews, their stories were included in the exhibit. So you can hear it directly from them and not necessarily me interpreting that.
And then you had a physical representation / manifestation of a court.
Yeah.
And these puzzles.
Yeah.
So what was that? How did those puzzles looked amazing? I
They
could absolutely
those
see
puzzles
your
were huge.
style throughout different types of pieces
Yeah.
you've made over time.
Oh yeah, those puzzles were huge. I really like to invite people into the work. I like people to
That's
engage
why you have
it.
us going through the
Through
work
the
here
yeah.
too. I walked underneath it.
Yeah. I like the idea of something that Keith Haring said, art is for everyone, and art should be for everyone. I believe that art should be accessible. And I don't mind, because I'm an educator, I don't mind doing a labor to help interpret or just to make something simpler so that people could understand. So the puzzles, I wanted people to be able to touch things and just to interact with it, because I think the average time somebody spends with an artwork is maybe like 7 to 11 seconds. But I wanted something, I want to create experiences, art that invites a viewer to like really spend time with it, to engage with it, in like multiple ways.
When you wrapped that specific exhibition up as part of your residency, what did you learn about yourself as an artist?
I learned that I can do really hard things. I did essentially 3 solo exhibitions in 6 weeks.
That's bananas.
With that residency.
Uh-uh.
I organized and did all of that in 6 weeks. Yes.
And
I
you're still
surprised.
here. You are still here.
I surprised myself. I also had help. I had help. But as far as organizing everything, putting the shoes up, setting up all 3 different installations, that was 6 weeks of work. It was grueling, but it was also fun. And I love to do hard things. I love to see where my limit is, and I love to try to go farther. And I think how that I brought that into this work. With this piece, this is my biggest installation that I've ever done. I knew I wanted it to be massive. I knew I wanted it to be something that was monumental. And I think what I learned mostly in the last installation, I learned that I could communicate with material, because the last installation with the residency, that was actually my first installation. Those 3 installations, they were my first installations. It was a big break away from 2D work, because prior I was painting and drawing. And so with the residency, it was
like a way to leap into the installation space.
Yeah,
Wow.
and because I'd never done installations before. I had the ideas, I knew what I could conceptualize, and I just went for it with 0 experience doing installations. And I guess what I was bringing into this work almost 5 years later, 4.5 years later, is that I can do it. If I can envision it, if I can see it, and it can be done. So I knew I wanted to go big, and I knew that I've gone big before, so I really had a lot of confidence that I could do it, and that I could stretch myself. And I never make the same installation twice, so that was also a fun part of it, is figuring out a way to show these shoes differently, because I think this is my maybe 5th or 6th time showing the shoes, but they have never been exhibited the same way each time. And that's like a personal challenge to myself. I love to challenge myself in that way.
How do you start conceptualizing the start of an exhibition? And we can make it tangible by thinking about this one, right? So like you said you've done this about 5 or 6 times, and now this is the biggest you've ever done.
Yeah.
So what is this specific exhibition, this installation communicating, and what did you do to make it happen?
Thanks for asking that. This installation is similar to previous ones, but also kind of like a derivative, because the previous installations were about basketball being a safe space. And this installation is about sneaker culture, reaching a point of maturity, and sneakers being memory objects. So I knew from the start, when the gallerist Chayla Mitchell connected me and photographer Evan Ross, I knew I wanted to approach the sneaker as a memory object. That's the only concept I have. And things kind of really fleshed out once me and Evan started talking and connecting over both of our works. And in conversation, he mentioned that, these shoes are living proof of our lives. And from there,
Your brain
my
exploded.
brain,
I'll leave
yeah, my brain exploded. And so with this show, I think I became a stronger artist. And I say that because I am communicating my concepts materially, and I'm communicating better with materials.
Ooh, that is interesting, especially because from what I'm learning as an artist, as an emerging artist, is how important materials are.
Yes.
What it could be the type of paint, the type of medium you mix with the paint, the paper, the substrate, whatever. And yeah, tell me more about this.
That's also something that, I watch artist documentaries. I saw on Carrie James Marshall
Oh,
PBS documentary, just
one of my favorites.
master painter.
Yes, yes.
And he talked about mediums and the power in mediums to convey an idea. And I never thought of material as something like that, as something that also is the message. And so approaching this installation, I wanted to be really deliberate with material, because I knew that I wanted to approach the sneaker as like a memory object, but I wanted it to be sculpture-like. I wanted it to be monumental. So I knew I needed a material that could give me a structure. And I think I had the idea at first that the shoes would kind of like ascend upwards, almost like Christmas tree like, but I was like, okay, but what is that communicating conceptually? Like, that's going to look like a mountain. That doesn't make sense. And I think I was and this is where also I think is a part of being an artist, is just really being present with life, because that's where also inspiration comes. I think Erykah Badu calls it like there are periods when we have to just download and take in information and then find a way to use that. And I think I'm a school teacher, so I see crates, probably milk crates daily. And then I thought about the makeshift basketball hoops that I saw growing up. And then thought about the crates that I was seeing on my way home from work, like people sitting on crates in certain parts of certain neighborhoods. And then it's just like,
The moment of social gathering.
yeah.
Creating memories when you're there in a shared space.
Yeah. And so like it hit me then. I was like, crates are everywhere because they're so multi-purpose. And we can use them for a lot of things. And then I started thinking about the crate as a cultural motif, like something that continues to reoccur in our lives in different ways. And they have very specific cultural references. And so I knew that I was like, okay, that's it. I have to have crates because they're everywhere in different ways. And they have instant recognition. People can connect to them instantly. You've seen them, you've grown up with them. And I knew that started to kind of like really strengthen and get me advance the idea forward. Okay, we have sneakers as memory objects, and then you have crates in all these different places. So that made me like kind of think about the communities that shape sneaker culture. Like before global markets, before their commercialization, thinking about the neighborhoods and the communities that really shaped sneaker culture. And I thought there needs to be an object that was present and that people could relate to no matter what neighborhood that they were from. And so that's what made me think crates. And I was like, well, they're pretty durable. I can stack them.
You have like some connective
Yeah.
material too, like the
Zip
what are they? Zip
ties.
ties. That's
Zip
what it was.
ties. Like, and they're modular.
Yeah.
And so I also, it kind of felt like almost like a engineering experience too. Like I had to think
And also
think
the
about
color
physics,
combos too.
like color. I have to think about color. Like the colors are intentional. They're intentionally placed. So like I'm also thinking as an artist too. I'm thinking about balance. I'm thinking about shapes and thinking about lines and movement. And yeah, the crates, I didn't have a plan for how I wanted to start stacking them. I just knew I was like, okay, I got my materials, shoes, crates. And I was like, okay, what can fasten these? Easy, zip ties. And so I looked online. I was like, okay, I wanted the zip ties to be mostly primary colors, just simple colors. Because I knew I wanted to, if I'm representing, the communities that shape sneaker culture these communities didn't really have a lot. These communities are long experienced in making do with very little resources. But also with limited resources, that's when creativity thrives. And so I also wanted to communicate that. And so that's why I decided to, place the crates, the colored crates in certain areas and the zip ties in certain ways. Because there's no particular pattern to the zip ties. And I wanted that too. I didn't want.
You didn't want it to be so like regimented.
Yeah, I
almost
didn't
like
want
a free
any of the
flow.
piece to feel regimented, but I also wanted to feel like art too. So
What
yeah.
was the reason? Now you have me curious. Why did you place certain color crates where they are? Was it to spread out?
Thinking about the
flow?
principles of art, I thought about balance. I thought about color, contrast. And so if like up top over here, I've got a lot of red and orange, I knew I needed to balance that. So I have the red here and then the red up there, but also it's balanced because I have a
And some
contrast.
surprise greens.
So surprise green. Like I wanted the piece to feel like when you walk around it, like you keep having something new coming, like something new that you didn't expect.
And as you're placing the sneakers on some of the extended crates versus maybe creating this color wheel over here, right? What were you thinking about with regards to that? Why did you put some sneakers on the extended crates versus others?
Oh, like the display?
Yeah.
Crates? Oh, I was thinking about certain shoes that have significant cultural meaning or certain shoes that were just really stand out. Like
I see you have like Jordans up there, making sure
Jordans are overwhelmingly the most
iconic.
yeah, and the most represented shoe. I had a lot of Jordans donated, and I also wanted to create Easter eggs because I love to have fun.
I love that.
So that's part of my identity as an artist too. Is I'm very my personality. I'm really playful, and I love to create fun. And so there are basketballs in there. There is the Pan-African flag.
Oh, I just noticed
that I've hidden in there. I've hidden a color wheel.
It's like a scavenger hunt too.
Yes,
like the
I
best
made
way.
I made
Oh
a
my
scavenger
goodness.
hunt. I
Yeah,
actually
I'm
made
like
a
my eyes
scavenger
are
hunt.
like it's revealing more and more.
Yeah, and there's an area where I call incognito because it's just all black shoes.
Okay, I'm gonna be. Wait.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's right there. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
We'll show you later.
What other hidden meanings are in
Well, you also
there?
have a TV
Oh,
and it's
there's a
showing different
TV.
ads, like maybe sneaker ads. Is that what it is? Or I didn't
The
get to see
the
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 whole.
vintage sneaker commercials, I wanted to also, part of my educator, the educator in me is, I want people to, really think deeply about what they are being, like what's being advertised to them,
And by
and
who?
and
Who and
by
the.
who,
Yeah. For who?
and for who.
Yeah.
And so the vintage sneaker commercials, like the communities, if we go back to the communities before sneaker culture became a global market, street culture, these communities help shape sneaker culture. And sneaker culture was monetized, commodified, and they kind of, absorb elements of these communities, of these people represented from these communities, absorb that, how they got interpolated into sneaker markets. But not also reaping a lot of the monetary material benefits of it.
Correct.
Yeah. Or, not being able to afford the very products that they helped influence. So there's that tension there. And as I was, you asking me what I learned, also learn a lot through making art. Like it's a medium for me to learn as well. And I was sourcing these vintage commercials, and a lot of the older commercials, these players were attached to brands, and I remember the Grandmama commercial, or even the Little Penny Hardaway, the Little Penny commercial. And Tyra Banks was in that commercial. Why was she in a sneaker commercial, basketball? But it also made me think about, like,
What
even
else was going on socially at that time?
what else was going on
Culturally
socially at that time, and even how um, women were used to market things. Like their props used to market things. So I thought it made me think about a lot of things. As a kid, you're not thinking critically about these things, but rewatching them again as an adult was really
And in the way you
interesting.
did, you were studying them ultimately to create
Yeah,
this piece.
yeah. So that was very interesting.
So then, and I know, we can go back to this, of course, but what you're saying is making me think a lot about the uh, installation that I saw at room service. And I don't know if you also had exhibited the body language Black Femmes in the Digital Age somewhere else. But for me, that was where I was first exposed to your work. And then I actually believe I met you. I don't know.
Oh, yeah?
I met you at the queer art showcase that the city put on.
Queer art salon.
Yeah, and I think I just took a picture of you and your friends in front of your piece of your work, which I loved. Oh my gosh. This is like a while ago. Because as I was looking back in my own photos and looking into your piece, I was like, wait, I was there. But to go to this specific one and to describe it, it's making me think a lot about this, where it was clear that you did a lot of research into how Black women or Black femmes were represented or representing themselves on social media platforms. You then created, and just to describe it to folks, and I don't mean to explain it for you, but
no.
what I loved was the way in which you represented it. It was on a very like feminine background of like this fluffy pink material. You had different cell phones placed and they would rotate like different, almost like TikTok style, like dances. You had I think a pink silk or blush silk bedding on a bed. And I know that there was just the color theme in that room service was very much tied together, and it just left a big imprint on me because while I might not be a Black femme or Black woman, I am Latina, and I'm also thinking about the history of Black women, Black folks in America, in the world, and how oftentimes with women or femmes that they're over-sexualized very quickly. or, there's more nuance to that. So I don't mean to speak necessarily on it, but that was what I received. So I'd be curious, as you were thinking through this exhibition, what made you say, I need to also talk about that after talking about Black mask emotions in the initial work? How did you get to this, and why?
I'll speak first to the collaboration with Chayla Mitchell. She had the Pink Room, and I was just stopping by, and there wasn't a plan for me to put my work in the room. I just stopped by and was like, hey, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you did a Pink Room. Let me show you this. Do you think I can add it? And she really loved it. And like, that was such a good pairing, I think, between us, because nobody could tell where.
It worked so well together.
Yeah, nobody could tell that.
Yeah, I had no idea. It was so great. Big props to Jayla then.
Yeah. And I had a friend several years ago. She was like, you're doing a lot of work around masculinity. What about femininity? What about Black femininity? And I had realized there was a discomfort there at the time, because I identify as masculine, but I also identify, depending on the situation politically, as a woman or non-binary, but I do have an affinity with Black femmes. And I think art has been a way for me to kind of explore parts of myself before I fully actualize those parts within myself. And so I think it was like maybe subconscious when I started exploring Black youth, Black masculinity. I was somewhat identifying as femme at the time. And so when my friend suggested to explore femininity, I was like, okay. And so I started archiving a lot of videos from people I follow, and we're screen recording and just trying to, again, the patterns, trying to observe patterns and seeing how they were representing themselves as sexual beings. Simultaneously, I was reading a lot about Black feminist theory, reading a lot about the idea of recovering the Black female body, and I started thinking about theory in situ with what I was observing online. And, there's this notion that, Black women in general, hyper visible, but also hyper invisible at the same time. Visible as objects, but invisible as subjects capable of expressing who they are on their own terms. And I was thinking about the digital space as a platform where Black femmes, Black people in general, but especially Black femmes, Black women, as a platform where they really had control in how they were represented as sexual beings. And I didn't necessarily want my work to kind of be a resistance or a counter, but
almost like an observation.
Yeah, almost like just like an observation, but really wanting to center pleasure. And that piece that you saw was about desirability and how young Black femmes understand their relationship to desirability, and based on that relationship, how they then show up in the world. Because desirability can be a way to access power, to, bargain with patriarchy in a way, is through our desirability.
Yeah.
So I thought all of those tensions were interesting.
Yeah. And it's making me think even more, because it was a collaboration with Chayla, like they created they had that bed, which is also can be interpreted and aligned with desirability, with femininity. It was Yeah, that I still think about that exhibition, to be honest,
Oh, wow.
or installation.
Yeah, it was interesting because it was so interesting, the reactions, because art, I think, art can be polarizing.
Yeah.
And some of the reactions when people walked into that space, they immediately, and saw Black women, they immediately read it as sex. I anticipate those reactions because of how Black women bodies have been interpolated in mainstream culture. Going back to this idea of like communicating with material, I think what I want my role to be is just to represent Black femmes, Black women as they want to be represented. And I'm not necessarily trying to control or counter a narrative, but just really to center pleasure. And I think it brings up interesting conversations.
It's actually interesting you're saying this. There's a series that I'm also working on, and it's looking at an aspect of pleasure within a consensual power dynamic. And in many ways, I'm hesitant to talk about it because it's vulnerable, because it is, it's just like not a normal part of a conversation. So I know it's not the same, but I can understand what you're saying, because when you bring in the idea of pleasure, I'm looking at it as we're living in a current moment in time where being able to access pleasure consensually and then also access it in the way you want to access it is, I don't know if you will agree with this, but perhaps an act of resistance, because it's that moment of being able to claim yourself or to claim your space. That's how I'm looking at that piece and what is coming up for me as I hear from you.
One of the books that was really kind of like anchoring is Recovering the Black Female Body. And in it talks about, the ways in which different Black female entertainers, writers, artists, cultural producers, theorists, ways in which they navigated that. And in my work, what I've been kind of theorizing around is that we can recover our bodies, our sexualities, with our creativity and our imagination.
I love that. I love that so much. That's like giving me chills. Like, it's making me think about that. And it makes me, this is why I love talking to artists, because it's so cool learning about, and so exciting learning about what excites you, right? What's inspiring you. What are other artists that you are personally influenced by and inspired by? I don't know if it's like Carrie James Marshall, because you've mentioned them,
No,
but
not
how are they showing up in your work?
Pamela Council, Sadie Barnett. They do installations, like colorful installation. I love how they use material and color and how they put a viewer inside of their idea. So they're really influential to me. Other people that are influential to me, writers, academics, because I just read a lot. And I cannot name all these people by name. It's like I read the book covers. An artist that's here, that's local, that's really, honestly, has been my muse for several years. Her name is Brooke J.
Tell me more.
Brooke, she's one of those artists, I tell her all the time, like, she's like a true artist. And what I mean by that is, like, there are people who do it first. And usually those people might be perceived as weird, or they do something that's out there, but they're really kind of like a few years ahead of something. And Brooke is one of those artists to me. I saw a video performance piece that she had just posted. It was on YouTube. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was blown away. And that piece ended up inspiring me to create a curriculum around it. As I'm working on
Wow.
I'm working on a curriculum. I just got a grant for one of the projects for this curriculum, but building a curriculum about Black female sexuality and embodiment, really, the kind of like the big bang was me seeing that work.
That's amazing. I
Yeah.
love how you are tying yourself as an educator and an artist together, and it really, the impact you are making and going to continue to make by doing that is huge. I remember when I was in undergrad, for many reasons, but I was very focused on learning a lot about race, ethnicity, power, intersectionality, and the things that I read at the time have absolutely shaped how
Yeah.
how I move through the world and how I see the world. And it's awesome that you're tying that together with art. That's very powerful, or very impactful and powerful.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a learner, like at heart, and it took me years to kind of get to this place where I am now blending both like my practices as an artist and educator together. So like it's becoming my praxis. And I was confused for a long time. I was like,
Did you feel pressure to do like one
it
versus
or
the other?
one versus the other. And
Yeah.
I had resolved within myself, okay, I can just do art on the side, and teaching is my thing, because I am really passionate about education. Like being an educator honestly weighs more to me than just being an artist. But I have found a relationship with them both that they feel enmeshed together to me now.
Yeah.
Like the education informs my art.
I love
I
this.
don't make an art piece that I haven't done
Done the research.
a lot of reading and research.
This is why I'm drawn to your work. I also love artists who do that, and it's something that, as I reflect on the type of art I want to make sure that it's informed and that there's a narrative behind it that is informed by what I'm learning.
Yeah.
What about you growing up what do you think, like, where did you grow up, and
You're
where do you
asking
think,
really good questions. Oh my gosh.
let me know your soul.
Oh my
Dig
gosh.
it. But yeah, like, what about how you grew up has led to that idea?
Like an intellectual approach. I think my mother. My mother, we always had a large library. She always made me and my little brother read. In the summer, she had us writing book reports.
Love. I'm sure you did not love it at the time, but
I can remember having to practice my handwriting after school, and she would not let me turn in anything with poor handwriting. My mother is also an educator.
my mom is too.
Yeah.
But she focused on early childhood education.
Oh, my mother first was, she taught college. She taught community college.
Oh, I had such a great experience
Yeah.
in community college.
And my mother had a unique pathway to becoming an educator. She didn't start out that way. She didn't traditionally go to college. She went to community college and I remember being in class with her, and I was very young. And I don't know, maybe I got the spark from my mom, and now she, and I genuinely love learning. I love to explore, because when I know more things, I can think about other things with a lot more weight to it, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. And very relatable. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And
It's
so
like hard for me not to be thinking about the things that are unsaid, to be thinking about the things that are said, and to your point, making connections. I'm a design strategist by day. So when you say that you like to make connections, that's essentially what I do for my job is
Oh,
like
yeah?
I do a lot of research,
Mhm.
I talk to a lot of people, and I make connections, and those connections lead to like insights that then inform decisions,
Wow.
just to put it simply. But
Yeah.
so it's very relatable.
Yeah. And I think for the longest, like I was okay with doing like maybe an exhibition. I've been in the classroom. This is my 11th year. It's also my second career. My first career, I was a graphic designer. I hated graphic design with a passion. But education was also not a planned pathway for me. It was it actually kind of fell in my lap. It was an accident.
Okay.
I had quit my corporate job in my mid 20s, moved back home, didn't decide I wasn't going to work and I was going to build my portfolio and I was going to move to New York. I was going to do the artist thing, and
Were you born here in the DC area?
I was
or
born in
where?
Arkansas.
What?
I mean, no, I was born in
What?
Dallas, Texas.
Oh, okay.
I'm
But then you grew up in
and
Arkansas?
I was born in Texas and I moved to Arkansas when I was 11.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had moved back home to Arkansas uh, to visit, and then I started visiting my old high school art teacher, and I started I started going to school almost every day and kind of like tutoring other young artists or helping or just in there painting and making art with them.
That's so cool.
And then I started substitute teaching, just tutoring, substitute teaching.
You're like, I like this. I want to be here.
I was like, I'm really passionate about education. And I thought that, I was meant to be an educator and not an artist. And so I was like, okay, because if I had to pick, I would first choose education because many of our social issues are connected to people having knowledge gaps or people not really understanding.
Yeah.
For example, you think about global warming. Some people don't really understand their personal imprint on the environment and plastic bottles and drinking bottled water and how, the life cycle of a plastic water bottle. I went to, last summer I forget what it's called, but you learn about the river, the Anacostia River. You do this like boat ride and they teach you about the river and water conservation. And I learned about like how littering in the river, the impact that it has on the water. And it said one cigarette bud takes 40 years to disintegrate. Or paper towels take 3 months, or a piece of wood takes 3 years. And glass, maybe up to like, I don't know, a couple hundred years. And that really, that made a lasting impact on me. And it's like, I think when we are more informed and we know more things, we will make different choices that contribute to everyone having a better world, so to speak. But something I'm really passionate about is like race and gender, because being born as female, I've been discriminated against, experienced certain oppressions in the world because of people's beliefs about me based on how they perceive me as a gendered person. And that's always bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
And I have always seen education as a pathway towards social change. And now my perspective is I can also use my art as a way to draw people in to learning about something. Like, because I want to use my art to kind of change the way that people learn about things.
I love this.
And, not
I
everyone
think that's why I'm drawn to art as well.
Yeah.
It's like I'm the percentage that like probably spends 10 to 20 plus minutes in front of a piece. So
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I literally love reading the placards
Oh my
if
gosh,
they have
me
them,
too. Yes,
because
me
not all
too.
museums do. Like
Yeah.
the Glenstone doesn't, and I also. But if they purposely don't,
They
they
it's an
have their
aesthetic thing
docents,
now. Yeah.
right? And I will talk to the docents, and I will be like, "Tell me more about this," and then I'll think about it. But I am that person that will read everything because I want to understand the intent of the artist, and then I want to think about it, layering my own understanding of the world.
Yeah.
With that,
And art, I think art is a space where we can imagine new realities. We can deal with the immaterial things that have very real material impacts in our lives. And so I think art is like this exploratory, this imaginative space where we can kind of like deal with those things and
yeah,
think about different outcomes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love that. When you think about lies that you've told yourself, then as an artist, lies that you've heard other artists say, what are those?
I think I've told myself in undergrad, the feedback that my professors gave me was that I didn't have a like one style, something to stick to, something that could be, essentially commodified. Or like if you see that piece, you know that's a Chrys Seawood piece. And I think I've always felt insecure about that until recently, honestly, when I realized that I'm a conceptual artist and I am able to create in different mediums. And I can create, I guess the lie I used to tell myself is that couldn't, I had to create in one medium to be taken seriously as an artist and to make it far as an artist.
And so this is why it was so radical that you created 3 different installations in 6 weeks. That was huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
And you got out of it sounds like you got out of that lie, you walked away from that lie, and then you just started creating more and more installations after that. Is that fair?
I guess so. And I think that it's important to really understand who you are as an artist. Because I was putting limitations on myself and I had to think about Picasso. Like even though he's,
Yes, problematic. On so many levels.
so many
He
levels.
was like one of my favorites, understandably because of what I was fed. And there are, I mean, his art is and was for the moment very much pushing the boundaries, but
He always pushed the boundary. Picasso was competitive.
yeah.
He was petty too. But aside from that,
That's like another podcast conversation that I would love to learn.
Picasso was praised because he could paint so many different styles, like Baroque and realism, Impressionism. He tried so many different things. He also definitely appropriated
as many
different things.
White male artists
Did
have done, and specifically back then.
Mm-hmm. That's why. What is the famous? She's the most famous female artist in the world.
Frida Kahlo?
No. Living.
Oh, living.
Makes the installations. The
Kara Walker.
The big pumpkins.
Oh, Kusama.
Yeah,
Yao
Kusama. She left New York.
I feel like I should win.
She
an
left
award
New York
no-
because Andy Warhol and other white male artists were stealing her ideas. She was doing installations before, even though I know she is also problematic. She don't mess with black people, but she was doing these installations, and Andy Warhol and all these white men were stealing from her. She started putting up paper to protect her ideas, and then she left New York because that really impacted her. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That was a tangent. But I say that to say that
No.
Picasso was praised for his ability. And I started realizing that my ability to communicate in different mediums, like that's a superpower.
Yeah.
I think that's a superpower, that I can do different mediums and I can explore what I'm interested in. Like right now, since installations, I'm really more interested in 3D works. I'm even interested in learning how to airbrush or fabricate. So
That would be so next level.
yeah,
Can't wait to see that.
yeah, I'm just really curious about material, and I just want to play with material right now.
I love. So with that in mind, now that we've talked about a lie that you told
Ooh,
yourself,
yeah.
what is your artist truth?
You asked some really good questions. I'm gonna have to journal about this. That's also
And then
part
I
of
want you
my
to tell
that's
me.
part of my art process. I
love
journal.
this.
I journal, I read, I reflect. A truth. How do you even answer that?
Is it scary to say out loud?
Yeah, I think so.
How do you want
I'd like
people
to
see
say
you?
that I'm a shapeshifter,
Okay.
because this installation, I think it would be hard for people, maybe, unless you follow my work. I could do 2 shows and they don't look anything alike. And I used to think of it as something that kind of made me insecure, but I think of it as kind of like a strength, that I can shapeshift and make something, use a different medium, have different colors, and it looks nothing than like what I've created before.
But there is a through line. The through line that I heard you communicate is really talking about the Black community, Black
Yeah.
people, and also gender.
Yeah, our really like our embodied experiences,
Yeah.
as our embodied experiences and the extent to which we have agency, kind of fashioning who we are as, or how we identify as masculine or feminine people, or not, or neither. But yeah, like I think a lot of my work, I think the through line, I think you're right. I think it is about like embodiment.
Well, you said it. I didn't say it. That's awesome. Is there anything you want to share with people on how they can find you, find more of your work? Where are they going to find this? How do we tell them about
Well,
it?
this is at Chayla Mitchell Gallery. It is right behind Union Market in the
I
alleyway.
love this space. Yeah.
Yes, right by Chai Pani, the Indian restaurant.
Have you had a chance to try it out yet?
I have not, but I keep hearing so many rave reviews. I think next week is the closing of the exhibit. We might go there after.
Celebrate.
Yeah.
I would get a reservation.
Yeah, I've heard that you have to get a reservation.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
My friends surprised me for like a birthday dinner there, and so yeah, they were on top of it.
Oh, okay. Well, wow, you asked really good questions. Now I'm going to be really thinking about this, because I want to
I
be
do want to hear about it afterwards.
better. I want to be better prepared next time.
I just want you to be you. Like that's
Okay.
my hope.
Yeah, and, but there's always this like, I think one of my insecurities as an artist is that, when you watch these documentaries and you feel inspired, I think I have a desire to influence people in the same way, but I don't always think that I represent myself like on the spot in a way where it's like, oh, you said something so profound. Like a strength of mine is like in written expression.
Okay.
And I'm not always like great responding verbally on the spot. So I think there's always this insecurity that I'm sure when I get home or watch this, I'm gonna be like, oh, I could have said this, I could have said that. But I'm trying to just be okay with what comes out in the moment.
And
And
it
just
is
be okay
brave.
with
It is really brave, and I mean, it makes sense why education resonate for you, because it's a visual and auditory, like a written. Oftentimes, when it comes to education, it's visual and written as well. So it resonates from what I'm hearing about what inspires you, what motivates you, and resonates. But I will just I do want to communicate how appreciative I am of your time. I think that you are a very thoughtful individual. I really admire how much you think and how much you reflect on the world around you and how you are trying to and showing up to the world around you.
Thank you.
That's why I'm so excited about who you are as an artist and as a person now that I know you more. It's like, because you are more than that, of course.
Yeah.
But your work has always like drawn me in whenever I see it in space, in like the outside world, right?
Thank you. Yeah.
So thank you for being here. How else can people find you?
They can follow my Instagram, I suppose. It's my name, just Chrys, Chrys.
Chrys.
Yes. Dot Seawood. Literally phonetically how it sounds. Seawood. Yeah.
And we have this exhibition up. So depending on when I share this,
Yeah.
but are there other exhibitions in the works? Anything you're applying? You said you're applying for a grant.
No, I got the grant. So I'll be.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I'll be releasing a project sometime later this year, and
That's amazing.
a group exhibition at Brentwood Art Space in the summer in June.
Is that in Baltimore? I'm trying to think where.
In Brentwood, Maryland. So it's like
okay.
Hyattsville.
Okay, got
Brentwood,
you.
Hyattsville, Brentwood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, I can't wait to go. I better go. Can't wait
Yeah,
to
I don't
see what
even.
you do.
I have ideas about what I want to do.
Is it going to be collaborative too with other artists, or
It's a
this
group
will-
show. It's a 5-person
exciting.
group show. Yeah.
I'm so stoked. I can't wait to see
Yeah. It'll be called Frolic. So I've been thinking a lot about what it
Play,
means.
joy.
Play. Yes, that's exactly. Yeah.
We'll see if we have a little sneaker. That could be like your Easter egg in general. Of like, there's always like some nod to sneaker culture, but
I don't know.
is it there? Is it not? We don't know.
Yeah.
Could be hiding.
Yeah. I don't. I don't know.
You're
I
gonna be
have to think
journaling about it though.
Yeah, I'm gonna be
Journaling.
journaling about it and try to feel what comes to me. But more so than likely, what I'm thinking about is something feminine. Because I'm trying to like, okay, if I do something like kind of, I mean, I wouldn't say sneaker culture is masculine. It's overwhelmingly masculine. The aesthetic in general is very like industrial, but I think I want the next exhibit to be like pinks and purples and sparkly things.
Thank you very much, Chrys, for your time. I
Thank you.
appreciate you.
Thank you, Maya.
That's it for The Artist Cut. If you've enjoyed this conversation, please like, follow, subscribe on all the socials. You can find me on YouTube under The Artist Cut, as well as all the socials as altx.creates. See you next time.